Hello everyone, my name is Dr. Surya Raut and today we are going to discuss on the questions which were asked on the ISAT practice test 1. Okay, let us look at the first question. The first question which is mentioned here: photosynthesis is a oxidation process, reduction process, oxidation reduction process or catabolic process. We know that photosynthesis is an anabolic process. What is an anabolic process? Where simpler molecules join to form a complex molecule is called as an anabolic process. For example, if you look at the reaction here, the photosynthetic reaction, here the simpler molecules which are carbon dioxide and water, they combine with each other, form a complex biomolecule which is carbohydrate, okay, and oxygen molecule is released. So, as a complex molecule is formed from a simpler molecules, okay. So, this would be called as a anabolic process. And what would be a catabolic process? It is just the reverse, okay. In catabolic process, the complex biomolecules would be broken down into simpler molecules. So, respiratory pathway would be a catabolic process, where photosynthesis is a anabolic process. So, this option, fourth option, is going to be ruled out therefore. Okay. What it is, if you look at the overall photosynthetic reactions, just look at the reaction that is happening here. Carbon dioxide is reacting with water and it is forming glucose molecule and oxygen is getting released. Two things are happening here. A oxidation step is also happening, a reduction step is also happening here. When water molecule is oxidized, what does it form? It forms oxygen molecule. And what is the oxidation step? Donation of electron. Okay, donation of electron is called as oxidation. So, when water molecule will be broken down, what it will form? It will form 2H plus 2 molecules of 2 electrons and oxygen. Okay. So, oxygen is released as a byproduct here and electrons are released here. Okay. And these electrons will be accepted again by carbon dioxide to produce the glucose molecule. So, that is a reduction step. And here it is an oxidation step because it is donating the electrons. So, donation of electrons is called as oxidation. So, both steps are happening in this above pathway. So, therefore, which is going to be correct? Oxidation process alone is a correct, okay. Reduction is not correct. Oxidation and reduction process is the absolutely correct process, okay. The enzyme responsible for digestion of protein in small intestine is pepsin, trypsin, amylase and lipase. So, let us look at the structure of the digestive system. Okay. So, the food materials are taken through the mouth, okay, digested in the mouth partly by the action of amylase, then taken into the stomach through esophagus, then moves there, it is digested again, some components are digested, then it goes to the small intestine here, goes to the small intestine. Okay. So, this is the pathway of the digestive system. There are several enzymes which are necessary for digesting the diverse kind of food, because the food material that we eat contains both fat, proteins, carbohydrates, okay, and also contains nucleic acid. So, it contains diverse kind of biomolecules, and these biomolecules needs to be broken down into simpler molecules which are necessary for the body to absorb to carry out the process of biochemical reactions. Okay. Fat is a complex biomolecule which is broken down by an enzyme called as lipase. Okay. So, we are talking about the enzyme responsible for digestion of protein, right. So, therefore, fat is digested by lipase. So, this option is going to be cancelled. Okay. Proteins are digested in the digestive system by two different group of enzyme. One enzyme is called as pepsin, the other enzyme is called as trypsin. Okay. Pepsin is present in stomach, okay, where the proteins are digested into smaller fragments of protein which are called as peptones or peptides. Okay. And finally, it is the last stage of digestion of proteins takes place in the small intestine. Okay. And in the small intestine, they will be digested into amino acids. Okay. So, which is therefore going to be the correct answer? Trypsin, because trypsin is present in small intestine and pepsin is present in the stomach. Okay. So, both are pepsin and trypsin, both are protein digesting enzyme, but the question has asked what is working in the small intestine. So, trypsin is present in the small intestine, pepsin is present in the stomach. Okay. So, therefore, trypsin is going to be the correct answer for this. Okay. And amylase is the enzyme which is responsible for degradation of starch, okay, which is a form of carbohydrate. So, it digests starch into maltose, simpler molecules. So, it works on sugar. Okay. So, therefore, amylase is not also the correct answer. Okay. So, the answer which is correct is trypsin. Let us look at the next question. It has asked us to verify the correct pathway of urine in our body. Okay. So, if you look at this picture here, then the pathway would be very clear to you. Okay. So, the urine is produced by the process of filtration, okay, and the filtration takes place in the kidney, okay, especially here the filtration takes place. Okay. The filtration takes place in some special units which are present in the kidney, which are called as nephron. Okay. You must be knowing that there are at least 1 million nephrons, okay, present in each of the kidneys that we have. So, that are responsible for filtration of blood, so that the products which are unnecessary products which are produced, okay, needs to be taken away or excreted away. Okay. So, the filtration is happening in the nephron. From the once the filtration is done, they will be carried out by a duct from the kidney into a storage part. Okay. So, the part which is carrying them to the storage organ, okay, which is the bladder. So, the bladder is actually stores the urine, okay, and the part that carries, or the tube that carries these urines, are called as ureter. Okay. And finally, from the bladder, the urine would be released through the urethra. Okay. So, this is the pathway. So, from kidney to ureter to bladder and then urethra. So, let us look at the choices which are given here. Okay. So, kidney, ureter, urethra, then urinary bladder. This option is not correct. Okay. We have seen that already. Kidney, urinary bladder, urethra, ureter. This option is also not correct. Kidneys, ureters, then urinary bladder, then urethra. This is the correct option. Let us look at the final one. Urinary bladder, no, that will not come first. Okay. So, this is also the incorrect option. So, the option C is going to be the correct choice. So, let us look at the next question. Okay. which part of nephron, we just discussed about nephron, okay, allows the selective reabsorption of useful substances like glucose, amino acid, salt and water into the blood capillaries. Okay. As I told you already that each of our kidney contains about 1 million of nephrons, okay, and they carry out the process of filtration, ultrafiltration, okay. They filter at a very high rate, okay, and at a very high pressure also, because the blood carrying the excretory products, okay, they come through the to the glomerulus, which is kind of a tuft of blood capillaries, okay, and here we have in the nephron the cup-shaped Bowman's capsule, and then they will be filtered here, and then from the Bowman's capsule they will enter into the tubules. So this is the tubular part, okay. So it is saying that which part of the nephron, so nephron has this part, nephron has the Bowman's capsule and the tubules, okay. The tubules can be divided into 3 parts, okay, which is not the point of discussion at this particular juncture, okay. So if we look at what is happening, the filtration is happening here, but as you know that in a given day approximately 180 liters of excretory products are being filtered by the Bowman's capsule, such a high quantity of filtrate, okay. So if such a high quantity of filtrate would be produced, okay, 180 liter, are we producing enough urine 180 liter? We must be hardly excreting out 2 liters of urine per day. So here is the remaining 178 liters of urine excretory product which are produced after filtration. Where does it go? So it has to be reabsorbed by the body, okay. And where it is reabsorbed? It is reabsorbed in this region, okay, especially in this region, and that's called as the tubular part of the nephron, okay. So the nephron can be divided basically into 2 parts, the tubules and the Bowman's capsule. The Bowman's capsule is the region which helps in the filtration of the excretory product, whereas the tubular part of the nephron helpful for the reabsorption of these good products which have been already filtered out. So water is a good product for the body. If there is no water, then we'll kind of not able to carry out all the metabolic activities, okay. So the choices that are given here, okay, tubule, glomerulus, ureter, Bowman's capsule, okay. So glomerulus is a part of the blood vessel, so that is incorrect, okay. Bowman's capsule, it's a part of, I said, nephron, which helps in the filtration, not the reabsorption, okay, this is also incorrect. Ureter is not concerned with this, okay, that carries the final urine into the bladder, okay, so that is also incorrect. Tubule is the correct answer, because as I already told you that this is the part of the nephron where selective reabsorption takes place. Selective molecules are reabsorbed, okay, which are useful for the body. So let us go to the next question. The next question talks about large intestine in human or man mainly carries out what, okay. See, if we look at our digestive system, I have shown that picture to you earlier, okay. So the food material comes from the mouth, it goes through the esophagus to the stomach, where the proteins are partly digested in the stomach, okay. Then it comes to the small intestine. In the small intestine, most of the food materials are digested. Not only they are digested, most of the food digested materials are also absorbed there, okay. All the smaller molecules which are produced after digestion are also going to be absorbed by the small intestine. So what is happening in the large intestine then? So large intestine is the part of the digestive system where the undigested food material passes through, okay, moves to the rectum and then through the anus, okay. But in that, okay, in the large intestine, some amount of foods are also, some amount of material is also going to be absorbed. What are those? Some vitamins, mostly water, okay, and some food materials are also going to be absorbed in the large intestine, but the primary absorption of the food material takes place in the small intestine, okay. But something is going to be absorbed in the large intestine. But the question that is asked here, what is large intestine is dealt with? Absorption, digestion of proteins, digestion of carbohydrate, digestion of fats. So, digestion of protein, carbohydrate and fat, almost all of them have already been completed in the small intestine. So, before going to the large intestine, the digestion of all products have been completed. So, some materials are getting absorbed, not all materials, okay. Most of the materials are also getting absorbed in the small intestine, but as some materials are absorbed there. So, this option is going to be the correct option, okay. Okay, this is a very interesting question. During deficiency of oxygen, okay, in tissues of human beings, pyruvic acid is converted into lactic acid in the cytoplasm, chloroplast, mitochondria and Golgi body, okay. We know that the respiratory substrate in human beings is glucose, primarily glucose. There can be some other molecules which can be respiratory substrate, but primarily it is glucose. If you would have remembered, okay, if you remember, you can recall now the entire respiratory pathway. The respiratory pathway can be broadly classified into 3 phases, okay. What are those? The first pathway is called as the glycolysis. As the name suggests, okay, what is happening here? Glyco means sugar, lysis means breakdown, okay, or breakdown, okay. So, the sugar molecules are broken down in this step, okay, and what they are broken down into? So, sugars are converted into pyruvic acid. They are converted into pyruvic acid. So, that process is called as glycolysis. And where does this process occur? This process occurs in the cytoplasm. Okay. Then once this step is completed, the pyruvic acid then goes to mitochondria. Okay. So, mitochondria is a double layered membrane. Okay. It is a double layered membrane. Okay. So, inside that there are 2 pathways that takes place. What are those pathways? Citric acid cycle or TCA cycle and oxidative phosphorylation, where ATP is synthesized, as you can see here. 2 processes are happening there inside the mitochondria. And after that, what will be produced? ATP molecules will be generated from the glucose molecule. Okay. So, that is the overall process of respiration. But this process will only work, okay. That means the degradation of pyruvic acid, okay, complete breakdown of pyruvic acid to release ATP molecules will happen in the mitochondria when oxygen is present. When oxygen is present, because oxygen acts as a final electron acceptor during that process to produce the water molecule. Okay. So, therefore, oxygen is required for that process. But the question is saying that during deficiency of oxygen, so when oxygen is deficient, okay, so then this process cannot work, right, because oxygen is required to carry out both citric acid cycle and oxidative photophosphorylation, okay, because the final electron acceptor is oxygen. As oxygen is not there, this pathway cannot work. As this pathway cannot work, what will happen? The respiratory pathway will go through a anaerobic mode. So, this is aerobic respiration. Aerobic means it is happening in presence of oxygen. But as there is no oxygen present, it will go through an anaerobic process. In anaerobic process, the breakdown of pyruvic acid doesn't take place in the mitochondria, it takes place in the cytoplasm only. Okay, it takes place in the cytoplasm. And here what happens? Pyruvic acid is broken down into lactic acid. Lactic acid. As you know that when we do a very severe form of aerobic exercise, बहुत ज़्यादा aerobic exercise जब करते हैं, तो what happens then? The oxygens in our muscle cells reduce. Okay, as the oxygen availability gets reduced, so they cannot carry out aerobic respiration. What will they do? So they will do anaerobic respiration. And during that process of anaerobic respiration, they are going to produce lactic acid, and this lactic acid leads to muscle cramps. So इसीलिए जब when we do a lot of aerobic exercise, that leads to muscle cramps, and that is because of the production of lactic acid. Okay, is that clear to all of you? Okay, so go to, so therefore let us look at the choices which are given here. Okay, so the choices those are given here, whether it is lactic acid formation happens in the cytoplasm, chloroplast, mitochondria and Golgi bodies. I told you already that the anaerobic respiration takes place in the cytoplasm. Okay, so therefore the answer is going to be cytoplasm. So let us look at the final question. The internal or the cellular, okay, energy reserve in autotrophs. It is talking about autotrophs. Autotrophs means plants. Okay, it can be any group of organism which can prepare their own food through the process of photosynthesis. It can be a bacteria, it can be a green plant, or it can be protist, okay, something like that. So mostly the cellular energy is stored in the form of starch in case of autotrophs. In case of animals, it is stored in the form of glycogen. Okay, and fats are stored by some specific cells, and that too mostly in animals. Okay, but in the plants, the energy reserve or the storage food material, okay, mostly it is stored in the form of starch and in special organelles which are called as amyloplasts. This is a type of plastid, okay, where starch is stored, and these are mostly present in the root. Okay, so they store starch in a large amount. Okay, so this completes the session for today. Thank you very much.